Welcome to Contemporary Retirement. Contemporary Retirement is a public interest program focused on the retirement community. Every program has segments on legal, financial, and health issues affecting the retirement community. Contemporary Retirement is sponsored in part by a major grant from the Family Heritage Trust Company.
Contemporary Retirement is sponsored by Family Heritage Trust Company. The Family Heritage Trust Company is an independent bank chartered trust company established by local professionals to provide fiduciary services including fee-based investment advice, trust services, retirement planning, and tax planning. The Family Heritage Trust Company is committed to client service in our communities. For more information, call the Family Heritage Trust Company at 301-631-5900.
Contemporary Retirement is sponsored in part by a grant from R. Thomas Murphy & Associates, P.C. R. Thomas Murphy & Associates is one of Franklin County's leading law firms, emphasizing estate, trust, elder law, and medical assistance planning.
Welcome to the Is It Legal feature on Contemporary Retirement. Is It Legal focuses on the legal issues affecting the retirement community. With me is Tom Murphy from the R. Thomas Murphy Law Firm with offices in Waynesboro, Chambersburg, and McCollensburg. Welcome to the show, Tom.
Good morning.
Tom, we always like to do a segment every 6 months or so on urban myths. You know, we talked about the urban myth that my lawyer's as good as every other lawyer, and we always tell people to go onto the National Academy of Elder Law Attorneys website and see if an attorney is talking to a child or giving secondhand advice is a member of that organization.
Right, and if they're not, then you've got to really question whether you're getting the straight scoop.
Well, we have another problem here, and the next urban myth is also driven by attorneys who do not understand elder law, and that is this belief that trusts are always better than probate.
Well, yeah, you hear that frequently. I hear it almost every day, and the reality is, in a lot of jurisdictions, sure, trust may be a great tool, and we use trust frequently, but they're not the go-to answer in most cases, especially in Pennsylvania.
Well, we're dealing with middle-class families. Most middle-class families are not going to have any taxes, or the taxes they have are not abated by having a trust. Maryland doesn't tax husbands and wives and children anyway, right. So the trust doesn't save any taxes. In Pennsylvania, it charges 4.5% between parents and children. It doesn't matter whether it goes through a trust or probate.
Well, exactly. You really aren't avoiding anything, and you're spending your time and effort and money up front setting stuff up, when in fact you really shouldn't. And worse yet, if we're in a nursing home situation with a husband and wife, we have to undo it. So,
well, that's that thing, and what we're talking about is estate planners talking about asset protection strategies, which sounds an awful lot like elder law attorneys talking about asset protection strategies. But the irony in Maryland, for instance, the biggest asset that most middle-class family has is their personal residence. Mm-hmm. That personal residence, for one spouse being in a nursing home, the other is alive and at home, that house is automatically protected. Yet if it's an irrevocable trust in Maryland, it is an available resource.
Well, it's exactly the same way in Pennsylvania. So we have to hustle and hope that the trust language doesn't prevent us from taking the house out and transferring it to the healthy spouse.
So we spend a lot of time undoing these trusts because, in fact, they do not help.
Right, and if you're going to create something, it creates more work later. I think that's probably not the direction you need to go.
One of the problems with these trusts, particularly through these trust mills or for people who do nothing but estate planning, is they have some poison pills in them. One of the poison pills is it is only revocable by the person who created the trust.
Exactly, and so if that person's incapacitated, has had a stroke or anything else, then it's very difficult, if not impossible, to undo the trust to fix things.
Because you need to get that house out of that trust, and there exactly. You have a poison pill in. It sounds right, but it's actually a total train wreck for medical assistance planning. Now you can go to court and get court orders and those sorts of things to get it undone, but really not handy.
Well, exactly, and if it's a matter of timing, where you're paying $10 grand a month for a nursing home bill, you don't want to wait 3 to 6 months to get in front of a judge to sign an order.
Well, and then you have another provision in it that says that it can only be revoked personal to that person, which means, once again, if they're incapacitated, you have a problem. So even if we leave the trust in place, which we sometimes do, we'll modify it to say that that person's power of attorney could also revoke it.
Exactly. If there makes if it makes some kind of sense to keep the trust, you definitely want to amend it to make sure all the connecting dots are there so you can fix it if necessary.
Well, you know, there's a 1 in 4 chance that a spouse is going to spend 3 years in a nursing home. So obviously you need to be prepared in case that event occurs. But obviously in this part of Pennsylvania, Maryland, West Virginia, Virginia, we have people that own property across state lines. So we're not totally opposed to revocable trusts to avoid probate in multiple jurisdictions, but we still have to preserve the ability to do medical assistance planning.
Right, so if you have a trust, it may not be a matter of undoing, but it definitely is a matter of making sure it's easy to fix it or amend or revoke if necessary.
And the problem is that we see these trust mills, one size fits all. You know, they come in pre-bound books, you know, with your name typed in it in a blank space. It's plainly obvious that this was what we call a trust mill. It's just grinding out the sale of trust. And we find borderline misleading, if not almost fraudulent, stating all the things that they accomplish, which just simply are not true.
Well, exactly. You'll be told everything about these trusts, and if you have a nice meal and you get this heavy sales push, you know, it's easy to fall into that trap, but you don't want to stop there. You want to make sure that that document's not going to hurt you in the long run or hurt your family.
And so, you know, as long as it is revocable and it's revocable by people other than the person who created it, or does not become irrevocable upon the incapacity of one of them, you know, you can leave it in place, but you have to have the tools in place to undo it if it's necessary.
Exactly, and you'll see all that little language in there where it becomes irrevocable upon a long-term care admission or something along those lines, and that's the absolute worst problem we have.
And people say, well, yeah, but I heard irrevocable trusts are beneficial. Well, not in that circumstance, because it absolutely is going to create a long period of ineligibility at the moment of incapacity.
Right, and so you need to understand the real rules, not this theory or what you've heard or what the neighbors told you.
So probably the only time that we routinely will do a trust ourselves is when we're looking at multi-state real estate or something of that nature. But for most middle-class families where really the risks of long-term care dwarf, you know, any potential savings by avoiding probate, they really tend to stay away from these tools.
Yeah, just keep it simple and easy and easy to be amended, and that's a better, healthy way for most people to go forward with their lives.
The irony, of course, is that sometimes you do use trust post-eligibility, after qualifying people for Medicaid. So people think, well, if you use it after, you must use it before.
Right.
And the answer, no, because there's actually two different timing questions there.
Right, I mean, they are terrific tools, and we use trust frequently, but it's a matter of where, when, and how, and that's the difference between just doing it right and making a mess.
Tom, as always, thanks for taking time to appear on the program.
You're welcome.
More from Contemporary Retirement after these messages.
Few things in life are as important as family. Leave your insurance worries to us. Write Gardner. Call or visit our website to learn how we can make insurance simple and more affordable.
Every life that meets its end leaves a heart for love to mend. Sister, brother, family, friends are left to carry on. When the loss seems more than you can bear, it's nice to know that we'll be there at Douglas-A Fiery Funeral Home. We care.
Call Ed Lowe to help put your mind at ease.
Welcome to the special guest feature on Contemporary Retirement. This segment focuses on various issues which are of importance to the retirement community. My guest today is Helen Schley, who I've had on the program many times for the Maryland Senior Olympics. Welcome to the show, Helen.
And my pleasure to be here, sir.
Now, you have around your neck a medal, which happens to be from awards that you won in 2014. Is that correct?
2013.
Okay.
In Cleveland, Ohio, the National Senior Games, which are held every 2 years.
All right, and I happen to have one of them on too. I appropriated it for myself because being a non-athlete, I didn't have any chance of winning that myself. But in any event, those are beautiful medals and they're quite heavy.
Yes, they are, and they're very good. Of course, you pay a lot to enter. It isn't a freebie.
All right, well, let's talk about the process, because when I made reference to 2014, I was talking about the fact that the National Senior Olympics are on the odd years, but on
Correct.
the even years, you have to qualify
Correct.
in order to be able to participate in the national programs.
That's right. You can qualify in any state. It doesn't have to be your home state. You only need to qualify, be first, second, or third in your event, and you're in. And then it takes a while to put these on, to coordinate everything in order to get ready for the Nationals. Nationals will be held this year in Minneapolis, Minnesota, St. Thomas College, July 3rd to the 16th.
All right, but what we need to realize here is that one of the things we want to do is we want to encourage everybody to stay healthy. We want them
Yes.
to participate, and one of the fun things is to train a little bit and to have some social interaction, and that's what this is all about.
Yes, and it's nice to go. I have gone every year, every other year since 1991, and I don't intend on going this year, but I enjoy seeing all the people that I have made acquaintance with over the years. At this point, I have outlived all my competitors that I started with in 1991.
But one of the things that's important about this is that, first of all, people say, well, you know, I'm 75 years old, I can't go out and compete, but the reality is it's all age bracketed.
It's age bracketed in 5-year age groups. You would be surprised. Last time I went, I was 85, and there were 7 in my age group. Now, that's a good many old ladies out there trotting around. I would like to encourage all seniors to get out and be active. There are many ways in which you can do it. You don't have to run. There are other activities. Swimming, archery, badminton, bowling, horseshoes. Then we have team sports, softball and volleyball, which a good number of people. This year, Maryland has about 400 people going. And we go at our own expense. Nobody pays for anything but the person participating.
Now, they can go onto a website. It's MD, meaning Maryland,
Yes.
SeniorOlympics.org.
Correct.
And they can go on and they can find all types of information about how to qualify, the sites to where to go to qualify, how to register. And so I'll repeat that again, and I'm sure Director Gregg will put this running underneath me, SeniorOlympics.org.
Correct.
All right, and so there's a lot of information out there, and there's a lot of easy opportunities for you to go out, socialize, and give yourself some targets to work on.
Yes, correct.
All right, and so you did qualify in 2014.
Yes, I did qualify, but I chose not to go.
All right, and so that's been going on really since 1991, so that's 24 years.
Yes, and I enjoy it. And
what's your sport, Helen?
my sport is track. I do the 400, the 800, and the 1500. I've been very successful. I've been fortunate to be able to win gold in, well, the last time I won 3 gold, and you can't beat that. I enjoy it. It gets me out there. I train. I go to the gym 4 days a week. And then one afternoon, I have a yoga instructor who comes to my house. So it keeps me moving.
Well, Helen, you look great, and I want to thank you for taking time to appear on our program.
I appreciate your having me here, sir.
Thank you. More from Contemporary Retirement after these messages.
Tranquility at Fredericktown Assisted Living and Memory Care provides a warm, home-like atmosphere that promotes daily life enrichment. At Tranquility, our medical director is a geriatric physician. Our professionals support and understand the various stages associated with Alzheimer's and dementia. We have on-site physical, occupational, and speech therapists, as well as around-the-clock licensed nurses. For more information, give Tranquility at Fredericktown a call today, because everyone deserves great care. Let us do the caregiving so you and your loved one can embrace life again.
Come on, Dad, let's go! We're gonna be late! Hurry!
Just one more bid on HurleyAuctions.com. If you haven't visited HurleyAuctions.com, you don't know what you're missing. Whether you're buying or selling, antique cars, tractors, boats, or real estate, you can do it all at HurleyAuctions.com.
Get to know Dr. Carrie Hesley at Diagnostic Imaging Services.
What I find most rewarding is caring for women through our Women's Imaging Center. We have a caring staff that will ease patients through an ultrasound, bone densitometry, breast biopsy, or mammogram. Our health team is sensitive to emotions involved in women's imaging and understands that every woman is at risk for breast cancer. Providing the community with a center that is so dedicated to breast health and the imaging needs of women is something special.
DIS Women's Imaging Center, providing women with progressive care.
Welcome to Contemporary Health Scene. Contemporary Health Scene focuses on the health issues affecting the retirement community. With me today is Bridget Keith, Community Director, Tranquility of Frederick. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
And we talk about assisted living, which has really evolved over the last 20 years from really a cottage industry to a very substantial care providing facility. I know in your facility, for instance, you have a number of services that you would have never thought about 10 years ago. Tell us a little bit about the medical team there.
We do have, as you said, a wide variety of services. We have our medical director is a geriatric physician who is on call and available 24/7. We have a wound care specialist because a lot of people with diabetes, their skin starts to break down, so she checks every week on people. We have psychiatric services that do rounds in our building. We have physical, occupational, and speech therapy, a podiatrist, and we're starting with a dermatologist in the next couple weeks.
So as people think what have traditionally would have required that they being a nursing home is really being provided today at assisted living in a much nicer environment.
It is. That's our whole goal, is to keep people out of the nursing home.
All right, let's have Director Greg pull up some pictures here. So first of all, that's the entry. Certainly doesn't look like a nursing home. Tell us a little about it.
That's our entryway. We have 3 levels. The first floor is dining and assisted living apartments. The second floor is assisted living, and we have a secure memory care unit as well. And then our third floor is all assisted living. That's a nice shot of our front living room, we call it, right off the lobby.
And it has sort of the classic decor that we like to see in this area, the historical style.
Right, and it's very homey as well.
All right, and so this is a common area then, and then what do we have here?
This is, we call this our great room. This is another common area. We have this kind of decorated in that nice big leather furniture, comfy. We have one TV, that's the one TV we have in our common area because we really want people up and moving, not falling asleep in front of the TV.
And so this room here, it looks like it has some family features attached to it.
It does. This is a bedroom in our 1-bedroom apartment. There's pictures. This woman has her pictures there, and she loves purple, so we decorated the room in purple just for her.
And they could bring their own furniture.
They can bring their own furniture, and we can help with furniture as well.
Oh, this looks like the back of a hotel.
Well, why, thank you. It's the back of our sun porch, and there's a patio. We try to get outside. There's patio furniture. Now that it's nice, we can go out more. But yes, it's very classically beautiful.
All right, and so people oftentimes would look at this and think, well, it obviously has to have a tremendous cost associated with it, but we find that most people don't realize how much their home costs them, and many times staying in an environment like this is really no more expensive than what they pay to maintain their homes.
Correct. It could be even cheaper once the groceries, all the stuff you have to do, maintenance. You don't have to do any of that. 3 meals a day, laundry, linens, housekeeping, and no maintenance.
And one of the things that we find that we oftentimes encourage people as they unfortunately are unable to drive, although you don't stop people from driving. If they have a driver's license, they can have a car
That is correct. We have several residents who drive.
But if on the other hand you don't have a vehicle any longer, many people are just in jail in their own home, which just allows them to have complete socialization, medical support, and transportation provided for them on an as-needed basis.
We do. We provide transportation for all of our activities. We provide transportation for appointments. We have 2 buses that also, they hold wheelchairs, and we have a car that we can take people.
And talk to me a little bit about meal planning and special meals.
We have 3 meals a day, so nobody has to worry about they're cooking their meals. They can have snacks in their rooms or a microwave. We accommodate special diets and diabetic diets.
All right, so how can a person learn more about Tranquility of Frederick?
Well, a person should call me at 301-668-6030.
All right, and then what would you do then?
I would set up a time for them to tour, and we can tour our community and talk about options and choices.
I think one of the other things people need to be aware of is occasionally you might be able to offer a service to them in case a person only needs a temporary admission.
You're right. Many caregivers need a break, which we call respite, and we can house your loved one while you go on vacation or if you just need a break.
Or perhaps the caregiver has their own medical issues and surgical needs.
Right, and as we know, caregiving can be very hard on the caregiver physically, and we can either have the caregiver with us and their loved one too, or just give them a break, respite.
Bridget, I want to thank you for taking time to appear on our program.
Thank you.
Thank you. More from Contemporary Retirement after these messages.
People don't realize it takes a lot to care for a family member in your home. John's dad was very headstrong, so I think that was a lot for him to get over and try to come to terms with that he had terminal illness. I would recommend to everybody to get hospice involved at the get-go. When you first learn about it, get it set up, it's going to make it, I mean, it's terrible what you're going through already, but it's going to make it easier for you in the long run because we couldn't have done it without them.
Call Hospice today. Hospice of Washington County, when time matters most.
I have wanted to be a teacher ever since first grade. Without the Mary and Ruth Smith Scholarship, I would not be successful as a growing adult.
Do you wish to make a difference in the lives of others? You can, and you don't have to be wealthy to impact future generations. Start your legacy at the Community Foundation and impact lives, just as Mary and Ruth Smith have done.
Thank you to the Community Foundation for believing in me and providing me the opportunity to become successful with my goals.
Contemporary Retirement is sponsored in part by a grant from Albright, Crumbacher, Mao, and Itel. Call Albright, Crumbacher, Mao, and Itel, your trusted advisors for business, personal, and estate planning at 301-739-5300.
Welcome to the Making Sense feature on Contemporary Retirement. This segment focuses on various financial issues which are of importance to the retirement community. With me today is Pete Alexander, a partner in the regional accounting firm of Albright, Crumbacher, Mao, and Itel with offices in Hagerstown and Martinsburg. Welcome to the show, Pete.
Great to be here, Mike.
Pete, we're going to do a little theme on today's show about old.
Old.
So first of all, one of our favorite assets that we see among the retirement community are old U.S. bonds.
Yeah, we do see a lot of bonds amongst the retirement community. And they weren't bad investments. I mean, they paid a decent interest rate. A lot of them, most of them hopefully are still paying interest rates. Do know that not all those bonds pay interest rates forever. Some of them drop off after 30, some of them drop off after 40 years. So it is quite possible you have savings bonds, maybe you inherited them, maybe you bought them yourself, but they may not even be paying interest anymore.
And that's one of the interesting points, because if a bond is 20 years old and it's an E-bond, it's paying interest, and it's undoubtedly paying interest at a substantially better rate than you can get in CDs and money markets and so forth. And so as an investment vehicle, it may make sense to retain it.
Yeah, it definitely may be a good investment. Now, the difference between a bond and your money market, though, is each year as the money market earns interest, you get a 1099 INT in the mail, you pay tax on that interest. On bonds, most people, just about all people, do not pay tax on that interest. That interest accumulates tax deferred, and that's the key, tax deferred.
Now, we're talking about E-bonds as opposed to H-bonds and some of the Treasury bills that are issued. But one of the problems with these bonds is they only pay interest for a limited amount of time, and then they stop paying interest.
Right, then they stop paying interest. Now you take those bonds and you cash them in. When you cash those bonds in, you not only get the principal that you paid for the bond, normally half the value of the bond is what your principal was thereabouts. You also get the interest on that bond, and that's when you pay all of those years accumulated interest. You have to pay the tax on all of that interest you've accumulated.
And one of the great things that we see is people don't want to pay taxes, but they don't understand that the value of that bond, they may as well just discount it by 25% to reflect that that's what it's actually worth. The full value is just meaningless, because no matter when you cash it in, even if a child inherits it, they still got to pay that tax.
Right, I mean, you may buy a $100 bond for $50. When you cash that bond in, you may get $200. That $200, you only paid $50. The rest of that is going to be interest of $150. And that interest, much like IRA money, is one of the few things that does not avoid estate tax or does not avoid income tax by washing through your estate. You still have to pay income tax, or your heirs have to pay income tax on that.
So remember there, if you had a bond that you paid $1,000 for, and it was worth, a stock that you paid $1,000 for, and it was worth $2,000 at your death, your heirs inherit it, and they don't have to pay taxes on the sale in terms of the gain between the $1,000 and $2,000.
Right, as we talked about in previous shows, most assets, not all, but most assets, when they are inherited by somebody, the person inheriting it gets a step up in basis to the fair market value. So most assets, when inherited, can be sold the day after they're inherited for no taxable event. Bonds, much like IRAs, are not in that category. You must still pay the tax on the earnings just as your parents would have paid tax on those earnings.
And one of the things that we have to look at is oftentimes we have parents who are retirees in a lower income tax bracket, and they're resisting, cashing that bond in because they don't want to pay the taxes on it, realizing they're making a gift to the federal government. When those children have to cash those bonds, the rates are going to be substantially higher.
Yeah, remember, parents, for the most part, unless they're over $32,000 of income, they're not paying any tax on their Social Security. So they may have $10,000, $11,000 of taxable income on their return, and they have no tax. Their first $10,000 of income on that return is only taxed at 10%. So if you get $12,000 free, and the next $10,000 is taxed at 10%, you can pretty much make sure you have $22,000 a year and only pay $1,000 of tax. Because remember, if your kids inherit those savings bonds, they're going to pay tax. Odds are they're still working, so they're going to pay tax in a much higher bracket, maybe 28, maybe 31%.
And one of the problems is that they can't cash those bonds in without paying those taxes. It's just all there is to it.
Yes, bonds, as we said, are just like traditional IRAs or like traditional retirement accounts. When the kids get that money, they're going to have to pay tax just as it would have been taxable income to you. The only difference is they're going to pay tax at their rates, and quite possibly their rates are going to be higher than yours.
Pete, as always, thanks for taking time to appear on our program.
Great to be here, Mike.
Thank you from Contemporary Retirement.
Remember a more carefree time? Leave your insurance worries to us, Wright Gardner. Call or visit our website to learn how we can make insurance simple and more affordable.
These days, it seems like everything's online, and filling out claim forms and receiving and paying bills online isn't always easiest. That's why we at Quality First Insurance encourage you to just give us a call. Let us help.
Hi there, I'm Paul Sweeney with Quality First Insurance, and it's still just this simple. Our offices are open every weekday where you'll be able to call and speak to real, live people.
No detail was missed. I'm so glad that I turned to Quality First Insurance.
I've recommended Quality First Insurance to my friends who've been just as satisfied.
If you're not happy with what you're paying for Medigap, or more importantly, not happy with your service, give us a try. We're locally owned, and we take the time to provide you with the best. We are Quality First Insurance, and our mission is to provide quality products to quality people. Pick up the phone and give us a call today at 800-745-1411.